you can, I appreciate that.
We're going to reconvene from our 5-minute recess. Folks can take their seats. So this next item on the agenda is a special joint workshop with the Town Council with other town boards and commissions. Item is discussion, vote, or other action regarding the charter review amendments. So for folks who may be hearing some of this the first time or haven't heard much of it before, the council did back in September appoint itself as the charter review commission. There have been other charter review commissions in the past. It seemed to make good sense to work off of what work was already done. We didn't need to reconvene the entire body. So we've set out a schedule. Again, the timetable is really based on getting legislation introduced to the General Assembly in order to have ballot questions appear on the ballot in November this year. The last time charter amendments were proposed on the ballot was in 2010, and there were a total of 8 questions. There's no magic to the 8. It doesn't have to be 8. It's more. I think there's sensitive to the fact that the more you have, the less likely people are going to go through all of them. So we've been talking about what the ideal number is. We have before us, so tonight's, by the way, is the workshop. We've tentatively scheduled a first reading of proposed changes on January 21st, followed by a second reading on February 3rd, public hearings at both, followed by February 17th, at which time we'll close the public hearing and we'll vote on which ones to put forward. So that's the timetable and process. When we entertained ideas from various council members who went through the previous year's charter reviews, we ended up with a total of 17 suggestions for charter changes. And they're outlined in the document. I can briefly just touch on what the topics are. Yes.
In terms of the actual changes that get proposed and are presented on the 21st and the 3rd, is that an opportunity for people in the town to either say they like it or don't, or to actually give content suggestions or other?
All of the above.
Okay.
So what has happened so far is the town clerk has provided each councilor with the section of the charter that they volunteered to make the amendments in a Word document. And so each person is making red line changes, which we will review at the next meeting. And we'll have copies that we pass out so you can see what we're proposing to change. A good example is the budget dates that Mr. Clifford talked about earlier, because there's widespread recognition that those dates are all wrong. Another one is more simple. It says that the town solicitor shall serve until duly replaced, because we had an issue this year that we didn't have time to interview candidates for that position on the same night that we got installed. So they range in complexity from simple to more complex. And that's what we have. I think there's maybe one that's not on the list, but why don't I just quickly go through and say what the topics are. Our goal is to have some discussion with town boards tonight to understand if there are other priorities for the town boards, things that you're dealing with that don't work from the charter's perspective. If you think, boy, how did we miss that? That should really be something that gets changed. So, and the other thing is we're working off of, it's not the first time we've asked for boards and commissions to weigh in. Back in March, we had an old boards meeting at the middle school, and at that time we had these big poster boards up with ideas that surfaced and the dots on them, and we did get some suggestions at that meeting on recommended charter changes, which were reflected in the topics that we covered. It doesn't mean that we caught them all, so that's why we're having this workshop tonight.
I have a quick follow-up question. For the next meeting is on the 21st. Will the proposed chart changes be available prior to that meeting? If we wanted to read them ahead of time to be able to become more informed and more able to contribute in the public hearing?
Great question. We have a Google Doc folder that is accessible to anybody from the public. need to make sure that that is in a visible location on the town website. And that, those folders contain all the material that the council provided with prior to the meeting. So you ought to be able to get it for any meeting.
Is that there right now?
I don't know if it's been put up there yet.
I believe it has, but not everyone can access that. Some folks have trouble, so we may want to just put them in PDF.
And put them as a link.
You know, just so someone can click on when they come up, and the easier the better. And also, I'll put some press out to make sure that the public is aware of those two meetings. They should be able to come and make comments.
And they'll be in separate documents based on the topic. So what we have is, I'll just go through them as topics. Article 3, which is financial position of the town, and Article 8, which is the budget. Councilor Allison is taking the lead on that one, which is a pretty substantive one, adjusting the submission deadlines and so forth on budgets. The next topic is, and then I just going to list them, and we can come back and discuss them. Second one is Article 7, which is debt limitation without referendum. Currently, there's a $200,000 debt limit, which has probably been in there for years and years, and you probably shouldn't have a dollar amount in a charter because it's going to change over the course of time. We want to tie it to a percentage. Next item is Article 6, the term of the town solicitor. I just described that one. The next one is Article 4, town council meetings. This has to do with, and it was one that I proposed, and I'm going to recommend we take it off. To allow votes to be taken in executive session, provided that they are publicly disclosed as the need for confidentiality has expired. Because oftentimes, if we're in executive session, we can't take a vote. And so if we're working with an attorney representing the town in the case, we can't really give them definitive direction about how we want them to approach, say, a proposed settlement. They kind of have to get a sense as to, all right, I kind of heard this, and this is how I'm gonna go in this direction unless anybody objects. And but this was on a previous ballot, and it was rejected. So I'm thinking for that reason, I'm proposing to take it off, unless anybody on the council or otherwise thinks that we should have it.
I would support that. So you asking for your support to remove it?
Yeah.
It was ever an official, but yeah, I would support taking it
Okay.
off.
Okay, so I'm going to take that off. The next one is Article 2, elections. I was proposing to add a recall provision for any elected official. Other towns have them. It seemed like it would be a good idea to have that. Unless anybody objected. Again, we're going to come back and discuss these. Then we have, and I'm not citing the articles here because it wasn't provided, but positions, changing the charter to have positions may be instead of shall be, so that the council has some flexibility in what positions it wants to have. If the charter says you shall have this person or that person, there's no question you have to have it, and maybe we don't need it. Next one is appointment removal of directors by the town administrator. There was one proposed by Councilor Yazbak. I don't know if there's anything you want to add in terms of the action.
No, well, in terms of just the one prior, I did have a chance to go through this 620 times that the word shall is in our charter. So I've identified maybe a dozen or two that I think should maybe be changed. And the reason for that, besides the facts outlined by the council president, was in case there's consolidation at some point in time with other municipalities, with other departments, school department, town department gets together, you want to have the flexibility to be able to do that. So if it says you shall have a finance director on the town side and you shall have a finance director on the school side, I don't know how you guys could mesh those things together if you wanted to. And all that does is leave the flexibility. And also, I think, provides the town administrator, and to a lesser extent, the school committee, school department, to be able to structure their departments the best they see fit. So that if they want to take up a certain avenue to either accomplish a goal, they may expand a certain area with more personnel. If they want to reduce back, or like I said, they next step would then be appointment removal of directors by the town administrator. In other words, those people that are appointed in the same kind of vein, they can be removed or recharacterized or reutilized in different areas. So we were talking about that, and that was basically what we had on that.
The next one was, I think, jointly proposed by Councilor Alves and Councilor Yazbek, which is to have the budget committee meet monthly to review progress. That's how it's listed here. I don't know if I've captured that accurately, or if there's anything to add to that, or if the budget. Again, we're going to come. I want to just kind of go through them first, and then we can come back and discuss it.
And the way I understood that, Councilor Rouse, and maybe correct me, was that was to make sure that the budget committee, once the budget was set, that the town department, they would be the ones to look at the town departments and the actual expenditures and see if they were on target. Because we get the reports, but quite honestly, you know, there's only a limited amount of time. And we're, as a council, I think, I can speak for everybody, we get stretched thin. There's a million and one things we need to know about. And you know, obviously we put a lot of faith in the finance director, and by no means do we think that there's no reason to have a lot of faith in the finance director or the school department for that matter, but somebody needs to be monitoring that so any problems can be identified early in the process.
Next one is that the budget committee shall review union contracts and projected costs. The next one is that union contracts shall have public hearings before ratification for both the town council and for the school committee. The next one is the capital process, which was something Mrs. Blinsky was interested in, and I think maybe accounted for in Article 3 and 8. Capital process. So that's part of that process.
Can I jump back to the one about the contract ratification?
I want to come back to them. I just want to run through the list first. The next one was a suggestion from the town clerk having to do with Article 4, paragraph, publication of ordinance to be changed after passage, which shall be published within 15 days instead of 5 days in a newspaper with general circulation, and she provides a reasoning for that. The next one is, actually the next three were proposed by the Director of Public Works. One is eliminate, I'll just read it, eliminate and change some wording to care for the public buildings and facilities of the school department. The next one is to remove this wording from the planning, I can get back at the window actually. The next one was eliminate some of the wording in this section, yet costs are changed to the school department. Charged to the school department, thank you. And then the final one was recommended by the town administrator, and that was to consider modifying the composition of the school committee to some combination of elected and appointed. So that's the range of topics. With the actually, I eliminated one more. There was one that was down here, gender references throughout the charter, because a lot of times it says he shall this, he shall that. But the reason I'm suggesting that we eliminate it is because it was done in 2010, but by way of just a paragraph at the very end of the charter that says, anytime you see he, it should mean he or she. And I think we're already authorized by the last charter amendment, if we want to go through the entire document, as I think we should, and change things from he to he or she. I don't think we have to put that back on the ballot. Shim. So with that, we would have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, potential of 14 proposals. Again, last time it was 8. Doesn't have to, there's no magic to 8. But I just encourage folks to think about that number, because the more you have, the less people are going to probably spend time reading through it and deciding. And I know that Councilor McGee was working with the Public Works on the ones that had to do with Public Works. So this would be a good time if anybody has something that they would like to see in here that wasn't included, or if you have an opinion about one of the topics that's been put forward. Well, let me just ask first, before Mr. Rapko, if any of the board and commission's representatives have anything.
I was just going to jump in and ask if someone would drop it down and talk to the town manager in Colorado, because that charter change that they passed with regard to contract by the town council and the school committee. If the school committee votes to approve the contract and this council doesn't, the contract doesn't go through. And that has had a tremendously favorable impact on the town since that passed. And I don't even know the name, but if you pick up the phone, we'll call Mike Woods, yeah, I think he's going to tell you it was the best thing they did. And the other district that adopted that same charter change was Middletown. And the person, I think, who promoted that in Middletown was the former superintendent in Borough, who was on the Middletown Town Council, because she saw the effect that that money had in Borough and thought it had a lot of positive features to it in helping control costs.
Madam Administrator?
Yes, I have. Mr. Wood, Mike Wood, and I've spoken with him, and he said it's a little rocky at first, to get everybody on the same page, but once it was done, it actually helped. It helped create a better rapport between the two, the council and the school committee. And he was very, very much in favor of it. He said it worked very well.
Talk about union contracts or all contracts?
Well, I think it just specifically says employment contract. So how do you interpret an employment contract? I don't know if they have to approve the superintendent's dollar amount, principals, but definitely the union contracts have to be approved by the town council. And, there's in addition to like checks and balances on how much they're spending and who's spending the money, it also helps in that it doesn't make this, if the school committee can't come to agreement on the contract with the teachers union, they're kind of able to point to the council and say, well, they're the bad guys, they never been supported, so we can't give it to you. And you can't have the superintendent of schools in an adversarial position with bargaining with the union. Actually, if you take an ed course, they're going to tell you that the superintendent of negotiations, because the animosity that's created and directed at him as a result of the negotiations, if it doesn't go well, it's very detrimental to him and his position. So it's kind of like what the council did in Borough is the school committee in Borough decided to come to the council and said, well, we'd like you to do what they want. So we can't. And it creates the onus of, spreads the animosity.
And when that contract is ratified, approved by the school committee, the council has no say. We just have to sign it and levy taxes.
Right, and Borough, if you change it, you would have a say. It doesn't become effective because you pass it. Both boards have to approve it.
We have an ordinance right now where, the town side, we have a public hearing, and we strongly have advised the school committee to do the same. I think that's the wording in the ordinance. The problem is it's not binding. The last contract was not to have a public hearing. The proposal we talked about, it is a notation here that it would apply to town council and school committee. I think I like your recommendation that it should be all labor contracts, because whether it's a union contract or anything else, it probably should be out there for the world to see, and then vote on it. And then in Barbara, you say the town council approves all of the contracts?
They approve the contracts with the employees in the school committee.
I have no,
Unless both boards vote for it.
yeah, I have no issue with that,
Yeah. We can put levy taxes as it stands, that's it.
Well, if you're gonna live and die by the levy of the tax, then you should be able to control.
That's what we can, there's a little line card, right?
Yes. So,
I just wanted to mention in terms of the issue of may and shall, I heard you talk about may and shall very specifically about positions, and I heard Mr. Yazbek talk about 24 areas where it could be changed. And I just wanted to point out that when you do that, I would ask that you think about the unintended consequences of changing it, in the instances that you're referring to, from the lens of working in public health. And there are a lot of instances where may and shall really change the way something can be implemented. So I would just ask you to think about that when you're reviewing those may and shalls.
Mike Rathco, 25 Old Greenville Road. Mike Clifford took a lot of the fire out of my comments, but the town of Barberville has done a lot, and I've heard a lot of good things with Michael Woods as a town manager. I know at the last charter review, the town manager proposal was defeated, but just because something's been defeated in the last charter review before the taxpayers, I think if we feel as a town that we've got to make some serious changes going forward as a town, I think we should bring them up, because it sounds like a lot of the things that you're proposing are housekeeping changes. And I think we've got to look deeper and go into some serious changes if we're going to keep these changes for the next decade or 2 decades. So it might be worthwhile to look at the town of Barberville or another town in the surrounding area that has made some major revisions to their charter. And if they're very good charter changes that we should be considering, it'd be good to put it on the ballot. Even if it gets defeated, it gets the taxpayer to think that maybe, yeah, that sounds good, but maybe we're not ready for it. But at least it's preparing the taxpayer for the future. I mean, you hate to put too many on the ballot, but maybe they can be put in a position where you've got the housekeeping ones in a certain area, and you've got the serious ones in a certain area, so it makes it easier for the taxpayer to put a priority on what you're trying to change in the charter.
Here's the example from 2010, and it doesn't, this is the sample ballot. It doesn't list the entire, it summarizes what you're proposing. So it's not as if, you know, we couldn't do more than 8. And if you were to propose something, even if it's complex, it doesn't have to have the entire language on the ballot. It's just a summary of what you're proposing to change. So I don't disagree with what you're saying. I'm not opposed to bringing that back to voters if they want to.
But I think we should try to find some that have a little more meat to it. I mean, if we're going to make a change, a serious change to the charter, let's be serious about it, because we're going to live with it for a decade or 2. And let's bring it to the taxpayer and say, are you ready to look at this? Are you ready again? You were against it maybe 10 years ago. Have you changed your mind about this serious issue? The town has grown. We have a significant budget. It's not a small budget anymore. So, you know, I'd like to put some meaty items in that proposal, not just some of the smaller items that you mentioned. I like the idea of the union, of all contracts being reviewed by the council, because you're the one that you have to come up with the money that's going to be spent. So you should have approval on all contracts. So if you're signing off, then you should be in the middle of those negotiations for all contracts. But maybe there's some more like that, all employee contracts, town manager. Maybe there's a couple more serious items that should be presented to the taxpayer. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sir, could you just identify yourself?
Robert Boucher, 32 Woonsocket Hill Road. What I'd like to bring up is the fact that we all talk about transparency and accountability. And what I've seen over the years with the school department has been neither. Every time a piece of paper gets shuffled, it has to go to their attorney. What is it costing us, the taxpayers, every time this happens? And one of the changes you had, you mentioned about the school board. I guess it's an amalgam of 3 elected or maybe 2 appointed. I'm not sure how it's going to go, but my contention is that they have to all be appointed by the town administrator, ratified by the council. This way, a person can't say, well, it's their fault. If you appoint these people on the board, there's responsibility. If you ratify it, that's responsibility. This way, we won't have these games being played here tonight, stacked with most of the people who are here from the school department. And basically, as the taxpayer, I've had it. I want to see something, I want to see people working together. It's not like a tug of war or brinksmanship going on. You know, I mean, I can play a great game of chess. But the fact is, this is all I've been seeing for the last several years being played against the taxpayer of this town. You know, when they built that middle school, the school that should have been built was a brand new high school. They knew the situation at Hallowell. They knew the condition of that school. If we would have had a brand new high school with the top echelon computer labs, science labs for the kids, Hallowell would have been a foregone thought. We could have rolled everything to the high school. We wouldn't have this discussion today. But again, we're going to be making moves that's going to maybe impair kids, cost us who knows how much money down the road for poor choices. They built the elementary school on swampland. They built the Hallowell School. I went there back in the early 60s. We used to call it the chicken coops. You know, that's the way it was, a California school or Florida school here in New England. You know, every time we turned around, school committees have made bad choices for the taxpayers. You know, they closed Bushy School, we didn't need it. We ended up renting space from St. Paul's Church School. You know, we remodeled and we used that space for a few, maybe 2 or 3 years. Every time they've done something in this town, it's cost the taxpayers dearly. You know, that's why if you go to an appointed school board by the administrator, ratified by the council, this way you all have a part in it. It's your choice. You know who to hold accountable. Instead of saying, bless the school department, you know, we can't do anything about that. You know, I'm just tired of the charade here by the superintendent of schools. I'm just tired of the fact that every time a piece of paper has to be passed to a lawyer or an auditor, what is it costing us? I mean, we're all supposed to be working together for the benefit of the whole community. I don't see that happening. Until we change the mechanism of what goes on in this town, there's going to be same old, same old. That's it. That's all I have to say.
Any other comments on topics that have been raised? You like them, you don't like them, you have words of caution? Is there something that's missing? There.
So just briefly on the issue of town manager, I would hate to see it defeated twice in a row. I'll just use the example mentioned with the analogy where you have someone who's extremely talented executive and has the political support of the town. That's where town managers can't compete. But once Joe Allen is gone, we're probably going to need a town manager if nobody else comes forward. And that's the time when we should have to go and see the meetings. I hate to see it lose twice in a row and then make it for another 6 years when we really need it.
Well, that's, you look ahead, I think we have a very talented town administrator. And any effort, if I were to support it, it wouldn't be to eliminate her or move her out. But I'm thinking sort of down the road, when eventually she chooses not to rerun it. Are we going to be able to find somebody within the pool of this town that has the requisite experience? I'm thinking, my concern is would be further down the road.
I have to interject on the other side. By appointing a town manager, by a town council, you were taking away the political process, okay? And I have a real problem with that. I mean, I understand where it comes from, but basically what you do is whoever's in charge at the time in the town council is the one that decides who the town manager is. Also, not only that, the town manager costs are almost double what a town administrator makes. And I'm not saying that the town is not worth what she does, but to have it based on a contract like the superintendent is going to raise our costs a lot.
If I may, Mr. Fleming, do you remember we had this last time around? You and I respect you. I think you respect me.
I'll tell you if I didn't.
And that's why and that's why I respect you, Mike. You always get straight. One of the things that I know what Mayor Joe was talking about is that there are checks and balances. It's set up like a federal system of executive, legislative, and judicial. I'm a firm believer that the voting public should appoint whoever sits in the town, whether it's a mayor or administrator, whatever we want to call that position. We can have longevity. We've seen history where town managers or city managers have not performed well. But on the flip side of this also, when we're looking at the amendments to our town, we also have a recall, potential recall. And God forbid it comes to that point. That's really when it's really, it's going beyond it. Well, we could have a recall, but I am a firm believer that the folks decide who sits in town hall, who is the, not to play on word, but who manages the town on a day-to-day basis. That's the way I look at it. If they're unhappy with them in 2 years' time, it's not an unsturdy limb. It's a very sturdy limb on our end. Paul has done a great job, and that's what I hear from people. So we've been blessed. We've had some good administrators. We've had some administrators that might not have had the right staff. Well, that's fine. She surrounded herself with good people. That's a sign of a good manager. So I don't know about the whole manager, bringing in someone as a manager, a hired gun is how they refer to it in other communities. We're bringing in a hired gun. I would like to see somebody with community roots, someone that runs, goes through the process, gets elected. If we're happy with them, they get reappointed. If they like their job, they stay on. Suppose they don't like their job. You know, they have a 5-year contract with them. How do you get into all that? How do you get out of this contract? So it's 2 years, they sign on for a contract with the voting public of the town, they do a good job, they want to come back, they want to.
So based on what you've seen over your tenure, do you have an opinion? I mean, are you concerned at all about who may follow you and whether they'll have the right experience?
I think the town managers that I work with are very different from the mayors and administrators I work with. From, in so many ways, but more their disassociation with the residents. You know, you just mentioned someone with their roots here. There's not as much of a caring, and I don't mean that they don't care, but they are not left to their own devices to make decisions. They can't fight with the council where, you know, the person who's in my position, and we may have done that once or twice in the last 6 years. But I think that's where the checks and balances come in even more so. And it is really, it's the basis of the foundation of our country, really, that if we take that away and erode what people have to say, then, you know, we're just running business. And, you know, that is, we cannot do that. I mean, it's a whole different animal. I think that I wouldn't be concerned that if I decided not to run, that someone would step up. I would not be concerned. I really think there are good people in this town, and I think there are caring people that would be willing to take that helm and do a good job.
Tough job.
Great.
I think the more important question is whether you have a 4-year term or a 2-year term. Lincoln was switched to 4-year term. And I think that's, is enormously attractive in terms of getting done what we want to do over a period of time.
With a recall provision.
Yes, yes. So if you're doing recall, in 4 years, it's successful.
I agree with Bob's earlier statement, that it was defeated soundly. What's the point of putting it back up at this point in time? I'd be insulted as a voter. I happen to have supported it last time, but I would be insulted if I were a voter and I was being asked the same question that was resoundingly defeated 2 years ago. And maybe with more time, people will have a difference of opinion over some time, but I think it's way too early.
Seems like there's a consensus to not put any further thought into that.
Just to bring a little levy, if Paulette failed miserably, I think we'd all be looking for an opportunity to think about a town manager, but she's done a good job.
Well, I like the idea too, Paul. That kind of puts you at ease if you have a recall provision. And I'm a little nervous about the 4-year term because I can think of a recent, in my mind, 50 years back is recent, but I can think of a situation where we had a town administrator, and if that recall provision had been in there, that person would have been gone because, you know, enough people had been alienated by the actions. So with a recall provision, at least if you get some problem, you can't survive 4 years of incompetency.
So can I ask the clerk to work with the town administrator to make sure that the drafts that have been done so far can be
Oh, in front of everyone else.
I
said the president worked with the president.
Okay, so that can get done. If councilors return their red line versions to the clerk, then they can be put on the website. Okay. If there's nothing,
How about the councils that don't have secretarial staff? I mean, can we just give the changes to the clerk and ask for the red line? I mean, I can't go through this anymore. This is impossible. There's only so many hours in the day. So, these are the ones I have, but if you want to direct, you know, if you want to go through and approve them, fine. But
will it be clear to her which ones you wanted to change from?
I think so. I have a copy of the page and I highlighted it and just.
So there's no wordsmithing required, it's just changing it from.
Yeah,
Okay. All right.
Just a comment about the two concerning the capital budget process. I'm not sure the best thing would be to cut the planning board out of that process.
That's what I was trying to establish, Gene. You know, when I said, what limit of cooperation?
I think that, yeah, I would look at more of a cooperative effort, where it be determined that the budget board function as an advisory committee to the planning board in that process.
In which case, it may not even need to be changed in the charter. We could always experiment with that this year, and then if it works to everyone's satisfaction, we can come back with a charter change to ensure that it happens in the future.
The other is just to make sure as far as the dates.
Article 3, yeah.
For which they come before us is in a timely fashion. And then our other concerns is about the material presented. But I can see value in having input from the budget board in that they'll know, what monies are available. We know it won't be a futile process.
Okay.
And I think that would probably work. And as you say, this year we can try it as a pilot program, so to speak. And then certainly.
We'll get the drafts up on the website as soon as possible so people can begin to dig into them. And then we reconvene on the 21st for a first reading. And then there'll be a second reading on the 3rd of February, so there'll be adequate time to make revisions and changes.
Just for the record, I agree with everything you said, and I was thinking the same things before, and I'm happy to hear him express those things. And that's what we envisioned when we were talking about a November date for submission, collaboratively just meeting with the budget committee with the planning board, while they vet out the information and come to the decisions and hear the testimony, and that's all we saw.
Okay. So it's 10 minutes of 10. I think that we can get through the rest of the agenda in well within 30 minutes. So maybe now would just be a good time to entertain a motion to, I'll just say to 10:30, if that's acceptable to people. So moved by Mr. Zelinski. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Alves. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Roll call vote.
Self? Yes. Markey? Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so we're going to move on to item 5, old business. Before I do, I will just thank the members of the Budget Committee and the Planning Board for your time tonight. Appreciate it. In the public. You're welcome to stay, and you're welcome to leave. So under old business, A is discussion by council vote or other action on updates from Public Facilities Advisory Task Force. I'll keep it real brief. I have been copying council the progress of the task force, and I just wanted to So I just wanted to quickly point out that as far as the task force is concerned, we heard some of the discussion earlier with the school committee. Our next meeting is tomorrow. We're meeting with the consultants in an effort to sort of continue to refine this proposal that will eventually make its way back to the council. We're still on track to bring something back to the council by February 3rd. That could be delayed based on how the meeting goes tomorrow night. I'm just going to continue to keep everybody copied. If anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them.
Before I go, this is just I don't know what they call it, observation. It struck me a little odd, with all the discussions we've had over the last 10 years about Howell, that there is nothing on the school department side where they've investigated already all of these changes. I
think there is. Yeah, I think there is. I mean, the task force report, the school building task force report, I think is on their website. They're not on all
for the Howell task force, yeah.
For all of
But
the
I guess
school buildings.
they're asking for a deeper dive now on costs and associated plans. And I don't know that there is much of a deeper dive out there to be done by these consultants, is it?
I can't answer that.
Besides updating numbers, maybe they can.
They're going to update numbers that have already been.
Maybe, okay, all right, we can discuss that tomorrow. It struck me funny that it was being discussed as a new concept.
Okay. I don't want to go too far down that path because we're talking, well, I guess we're on this topic, I can discuss it, but I don't think that they ever got order of magnitude costs for the cost of adding on permanent classrooms at NSES and the associated costs with the core facilities. So they may have had that as an option, but I don't believe they've had that costed out.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions on the Public Facilities Task Force? No? Okay. We'll move on to item B under whole business, discussion by council vote of other action on additional wireless facility on the Comstock Road water tower. Mrs. Hammond.
Sure, Mr. President. On this, it's still a little confusing as to what's going to happen, but what is requested of us and what I'm comfortable recommending is the first page of your document authorizing that for signature, but the remaining documents I'm not comfortable having the town administrator sign at this point. And what I did was I contacted Unicom, Unison, and asked them, what we were looking at in regards to rent on this. And they said, well, we would be entitled to the net profits agreement. And I followed up with another email because one of the requirements is that the rent basically stays the same, but if the rent goes down and they re-rent it, then we may not be entitled to the 50%. And so I emailed them and said, okay, this is how I read it. So we're entitled to 50% less certain costs that are in the agreement. And I didn't get a response back. I followed up with another email saying, okay, can I get an answer to that? And I still have not received a response. And they knew I was coming to the meeting tonight. What their request was, at least on the first page, was just to get permission from the zoning official to do the work. But I don't believe that this requires us to follow through with the contract. I think that a contract will come to us in regards to the 50% from here on out. So I'm recommending that we sign the first document, but hold off on the remaining documents.
Any questions from the council?
My opinion would be we wouldn't sign any document until you get your answers to your question.
Is there any benefit to signing the first one and not the second one?
Well, they said that they can't move forward with an agreement until we authorize them to be allowed to do the work. So we're in a catch-22. I don't have a problem waiting. We just, the only other thing is that if we don't sign it, I think we're obligated to allow them to put these up. So I think that at some point, if we refuse to sign it, I think we're going to get into litigation. Or they refuse to do it, and then we might be out to 50%, one or two. But if you want to wait, we can wait.
If our solicitor has legitimate questions, and there's no doubt that he does, and we haven't been answered, I don't know how we as a council can make a decision.
Mr. Gasback, you were on the same train of thought I was. So why would we sign any portion of this until we had all our answers? Because what they're looking is to move forward and put additional ground equipment in, support equipment, generators, propane. It's taking up more of the footprint of the dedicated place that's there now, the fenced-in secure area. And they're also looking to put up another additional antenna. Now, previous meetings we had, was it Nextel or somebody merged?
Right.
And one of those, the question became, when that antenna became merged with another company, was that taken offline, or is that antenna still functioning? And the question would be, they say additional antenna. So this is still, to me, it's vague.
Okay.
And I hate to say this, but I wrote the cell tower ordinance many years ago when it was analog. I don't think things have changed regarding the footprint of where to put the additional equipment. So to Mr. Yazbak, I said, I would like to see your questions answered before I even contemplated signing any portion of this.
Okay. So is there a need to take any action at all? Maybe the council chooses not to?
I don't think so. I can ask you to put it back on when we're ready to communicate my answers.
Okay.
I think if we take a vote and then maybe work by this administration is negotiate.
Just continue to talk. So we're taking no action. Moving on to old business, item C, discussion by council vote or other action on Stone Arch Bridge construction.
Yes, we got the 90% plans today. I did ask the engineer to give me an idea of what was going on, and at this point, they're looking at us to review the plans, send them back. He's looking at the spring of 15 to begin construction.
Which is a year after we thought that they were going to.
I just got that information this afternoon at 4 o'clock, so I was leaving. Someone came in and brought the plans from DOT for us, and it looks
Do
like...
either you or the planner have any reason to believe that if we take some action, or that we can accelerate that? Because I think having it in that current configuration is just a real, yeah, it's just, I mean, and we're working off of their previous, not, I wouldn't say it was a commitment, they didn't make a commitment, but they've been telling us all along that they were going to go to construction in this next cycle. Mr. Erickson.
I think we have a certain amount of leverage to force them to get approvals from the other agencies as quickly as possible. Because after we gave them the proposal that was a slam dunk winner, for the pre-stressed concrete, they let Garofalo have a design competition when they did the old one against the modified old one against pre-stressed, and the pre-stressed won in every category, but was never quantified. It's almost as if they spent 11 months on a deal that was built in. Whenever there's a change, you get to do this exercise, and that's what cost us.
I would like to, I mean, I'm not speaking for everybody, but I would like for us, if we need to call upon our representatives, that we do so and say that this is a priority, and we've been told that it's going to be done in the 2014 construction cycle, and we want it done.
I have to be a little flippant here. I was in Bob's position, I don't know how many years ago, and we saw Garofalo being 40%. We also have to consider, does the state have funding? Did the parapets change? Nothing's happened. Nothing has happened, but we're at 90%.
Yes, a lot has happened because we completely redesigned the bridge. But they should have figured that one out in 2008 when that kind of technology became the mainstream. Instead of sitting around with that old, pier in the river until we called them on it. And then allowing an in-house design competition that wasn't quantified in any way, it's just...
Well, the fact is, it's programmed for 2014 in the tip.
Yes.
So it's not as if we're asking them to stray away from what they currently have in their program.
Okay,
So.
but I will follow up on that.
Does everybody agree? I mean, I don't want to be the only person.
It's been 15 years since I'm looking at this bridge. And when I say
There
nothing's
was
happened,
another truck went over this
Rita,
morning, and I
Rita.
didn't take a picture to send you, because I'm getting tired of...
Well, I got one that I followed because it was in front of me. I
The
saw
yellow one?
No, it was an 18-wheeler, and I was happened to be going the same way. I was just behind it, and it pulled into CBS, and I had my daughter write down the
I
name
stopped
of the plate.
I got to do a grouper citizens arrest.
Okay, so you're going
I'll
to
take
call.
care of that.
Mr. Chairman, the other thing I would point out is that bridge is in a much more dangerous condition.
Yeah.
And we have been told previously, it's not the weight capacity of the bridge itself, of the arch itself, which is very, very high. It's the sub-base that's falling apart underneath.
Well, I think we need to put all that into a letter.
Yeah.
15 years worth of deterioration.
We can work on that.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
All right, moving on to new business. Item A, discussion by council vote or other action on process for disposition of town property. Ms. Alice.
Yeah, I just wanted to work with the tax assessor to come up with an ordinance or procedure on having residents being able to purchase any town-owned land that might abut their property. Tonight, she gave me 3 different ordinances from different towns. So I'd like to work with her and try and come up with one that we can pass and have in process so that residents are able to purchase any land abutting their property that's owned by the town.
Is that going for commercial too?
Well, it doesn't say it here, but I'd like to see if we could bring it into commercial. So I'll work with her and then bring something before the council and see if everyone agrees with it.
Anybody have any questions?
But if you look at the abandonment of roads in town, if we have a paper road, 50% of the land, the abutters have the availability by 50% of the 20-foot, 30-foot, whatever that easement was. So something like that when we're looking at, just to make sure that people that do abut it have the same thing, and they will. But try to look at the abandonment of roads and how the town deals with that. Okay.
Okay, very good, thank you. Next item in the new business, B, discussion by council vote or other action on appointment to the tree warden. And I believe, this, Madam Administrator, was this your item? It's probably,
Yes. The council has to appoint a tree warden every year in January. I have contacted Mr. Zuba, who is the current tree warden, and has agreed to continue to do it.
Motion to reappoint Mr. Zuber.
motion by Mr. Yazbek, second by Mr. Walensky. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote please.
Sal?
Yes.
Mr. Reed?
Yes.
Yazbek?
Yes.
Mrs. Walensky?
Yes.
Mr. Dwyer?
Yes, motion carries. Item C, discussion by council vote or other action on purchase of conversion of land evidence records. This is Todd.
It's me
Ms.
again.
Todd.
I had a conversation with Ms. Hamilton. We thought we would go forward and try and put my land evidence records onto, to be able to get out electronically. So venues could just, call in and do it that way. There is a process. I spoke to the vendor from ACS, who is the sole provider of this, because he does have all of our land evidence records. And we have an account. It's strictly for preservation of land evidence record, of records, and I shouldn't say what it is, preservation of records. And we thought that we could start with $10,000. You couldn't tell me exactly how much that's going to do for me, but it's a start.
And I understand that there's money budgeted for this?
There is money budgeted, and it's time that we use it, really, because it's bringing us into the digital age. I think it may, over time, once we have a complete set of different types of records, prevent some walk-in traffic, easy accessibility from someone's home. They just log on and they can download whatever they're looking for. So it's something we really need to do. And the fact that we have no vault to protect some of these things too would make us all feel better, and it would be more easily accessible to the public as well.
Is there any chance that this will allow the town to dispose of some older records? No, we still have to keep them.
Question, Madam Clerk, the quantity 71,429, is that referring to the amount of digital images that would be taken at 14 cents a piece? Is that what that is?
I guess, he couldn't give me an exact number when, I said, how much will $10,000 give us? Apparently that must be what it is, 71,429. I don't know if it's documents, what exactly it is, I don't know.
So, assuming, making out of both, if that were the case, 71,429, if it were documents or digital images, and we're just guessing here, we don't know. In your office, how many documents do you think that you can qualify? 71,000, 50,000? To me, it sounds like a heck of a deal. If what we're assuming is the document being digitized.
I wish I could tell you, I just don't know exactly.
I would support it, I just need to know what it is.
I can give you a better idea. If we spend the $10,000, then I know how much we're getting out of that.
Can you tell us how much has been budgeted for this?
Well, it's not a budget, it's a dedicated fund, isn't it?
Yeah, it's
It's a restricted fund.
3% of
there's a percentage of every time you pay a fee in the clerk's office that goes towards
This is
technology.
$1. It's $3 per document we get. Some of it has to go to the state, some of it stays with the town. I have like $78,000 in this account.
$78.
So you can get started by experimenting with
Right.
10,000.
Okay. So are we looking for a motion here?
Yes.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Swalinski, is there a second? Seconded by Ms. Alves, is there any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Ms. Alves?
Yes.
Mr. McGee?
Yes.
Mr. Yazbek?
Yes.
Mr. Zalinski?
Yes.
Mr. Flaherty?
Yes, motion carries. Item number 7, executive session according to Rhode Island General Law 42-46-5A2. Sessions pertaining to collective bargaining or litigation, or work sessions pertaining to collective bargaining or litigation. The item is listed as Kazarowski versus Town of North Smithfield. Is there a motion to go into executive session? Moved by Ms. Alves, is there a second? Seconded by Mr. McGee, is there any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Ms. Alves? Yes. McGee?
Yes.
Yazbek?
Yes.